Schein couldn't make it. A.B. Bard, in his place, authored Killer Poet's Guide to Immortality, the story of a frustrated poet who becomes a serial killer to get read. Now, what do we got here? Can poetry matter? I hope not. Is it better to be irrelevant than relevant in a vapid culture? I did create some visual aids up there, in case you want to crane your neck and see. Can poetry matter like stone or flesh? Will it bleed or slip flush into walls, unscrew and screw light bulbs? Midwife, a fresh paradigm, slam goosebumps smack into the crotch of pimply anorexic girl boys? Will it divert floods, freeze glaciers, smooth tsunamis, gentle warlust, win a Nobel Oscar idol, untorture the tortured, torture the torturers in a paroxysm of insight, incite accountants to lose count, lawyers to drop their briefs, presidents to impeach themselves for the high crime of believing their own lies? Can poetry matter if there is no God, if caring about poetry is not caring about God, if uncertainty means that each time one person cares about poetry, God pops to the dark side of the moon? If we don't need God because God doesn't change a goddamn thing? Can poetry matter solely because we need to believe something matters, so it might as well be poetry as porn or Paris Hilton? I urge you to take a look back there. So we have not bled for no reason, so that by writing it down, choosing numinous over luminous, we pull ourselves up by divine bootstraps, make ourselves complete, render horror numinous in a couplet. Litview's Poets Workshop, thank you, Jeremy, for mentioning that, happens every year in Central Washington, and it's really quite an experience. I urge you to get your butt over the mountains and see what's over there. This year our featured artist is Dorianne Lau, and you can find out more about it at litfuse.us. Benedictus. Okay, Pope, so you had this gig, infallible voice of Christ on earth, and you quit in this job market? Benedict, you had it all. Your words like pearls, immutable. That Art Nouveau mitre, white robes, red shoes, the Pope-mobile, and you threw it off to go back to being Joseph Aloysius Ratzinger? I don't buy the old age excuse, because all they got to do is wheel you to the balcony, and besides, isn't just one whiff of that Holy Spirit you guys sniff supposed to be Viagra enough to stiffen your staff for infidel battle? So tell me true, Benny, why'd you bail on us? Was it the terror of being the big guy's ventriloquist dummy and discovering no voice in your head but your own? Maybe it was the long shadow of John Paul, that aptly named Pope who was half the fucking Beatles. Maybe it was your stupid Pope name, Benedict, eggs with hollandaise for brunch, half Ben Gay, which connotes half Ben, which connotes Ben Gay, and we don't want to go there, do we, Benny? And the other half a holier-than-thou edict. Christ, you'd have been better off choosing George Ringo. Mix a little Hare Krishna in with the Domini Deus and close with a snare riff and a clap of the old hi-hat. Just between you and me, Benny, it was the pedophilia, wasn't it? Too many Pauls couldn't keep their Peters at St. Peter's, and no incense censors nor babble of Latin can sweeten the Sodom Gomorrah of that stinking mass hypocrisy. I'm no angel, Benny, and I'm sure not infallible, but it seems to me that if this God trope you use to cover your skins has a plan, then those who invoke hell to rape children, and those who put them in a position to do it again and again and again, are doomed to the hot seat of their sermons forever and ever and ever. Hey, compared to eternity, you're not even that old, Benny. You're just another child doomed to lift your robes in the name of the Father. While we're on the topic, blasphemy. God is a concept by which we measure our pain, said John Lennon. Dear Lord, who ain't in Harlem, who turned Lot's wife into a pillar of dried tears, hallowed be thy name. Thy will be better left undone. I still get a chill when I read Ezekiel. I'll scatter the bones of the children of Israel round about their altars for worshiping stones, and when I'm done killing everyone, they shall know that I am the Lord. Great motto for a batterer or an axe murderer, God, but not for a divine being, unless being divine means delusions of grandeur and inability to manage anger. Go ahead, God, strike me down on the spot. I don't believe in saviors. I don't pray. Don't believe Jesus rose. I think abortion's okay. Think you and your fanatics caused most of history's misery. Arabs versus Israelis, fatwas and cartoon riots, harmless eccentrics burned as witches, the massacre at Mountain Meadows, 5-year-old widows dead in Krishna's eyes, the Satan shell game, fear of hell, abused altar boys, human sacrifice, the Spanish Inquisition, crusades and crucifixion, jihad, 9/11, shame and ostracism, 72 virgins in heaven, Galileo, repressed libido, and the whole damn torture museum in San Gimignano. Before I wrap this catalog of fright, my dictionary says rapture is ecstatic delight. But your most fervent pastors and their followers boast its global genocide. I might have guessed from the woes applied to your chosen people that you were into bondage, but are you God or the Marquis de Sade? Ask yourself, dear God, who created whom and why? Wouldn't it be odd if we created you to succor our fear of mortality and you used your power to spread death's grim pall just because we can't agree on how best to pray? Or is that what holy men call working in mysterious ways? Humans are not the cat's meow, but surely we are no worse than sacred cows. There are mysteries in the universes and plenty of room for wonder without Godfather doomed to plunder from the gloomy clouds. The golden rule requires no faith, and faith requires no you. No status quo, nose to the grindstone, paint by numbers, do as I say, not as I do. Deity will ever make nirvana out of a sow's ear. Need I go further? Why are you even taking this crap from a punk like me, God? Come on, strike me down, and don't cheat by acting through some self-deluded zealot who feels threatened by a poem. Do it yourself, with lightning. You obviously don't give a damn about human suffering, how my children would weep. Remember Auschwitz and the firstborn in Egypt? Even today, you stand by while shamans with no shame bomb children in your name, and you don't silence them for wrapping killing lies in ribbons of God bless. So I say, what about your trespasses? If I were you, I'd be the one asking forgiveness. So I'm going to read a couple of poems now that are from some more recent work. I've been doing a series of persona poems. They're shorter. And they're from the point of view of this character, the killer poet. First one's called Job Interview. The killer poet doesn't interview well. He doesn't know the CEO. His dad and the VP do not play golf. His clothing is slightly off. He ties a hangman's noose where a half Windsor would do. He doesn't make small talk. When he gets frustrated, he refers to the blade of truth. Under experience, his resume says killer and poet. When asked to explain, he duct tapes the Second Amendment to the interviewer's forehead, videos himself licking it off, messages the file to a wedding planner who sets it to violins and the moans of women near orgasm, then uploads it to YouPorn. Security is alerted. All the passwords are changed. The killer poet does not get callbacks. He gets restraining orders. The killer poet didn't really want the job. The job is to make the world less beautiful. The job is death. The killer poet is not qualified. Pre-bang. The killer poet attends a poetry workshop because there are no killing workshops. There's the Marines, but the coffee sucks. At the poetry workshop, a teacher fires blank verses at slate gray stairs. After the shy girl reads hers, the killer poet removes his pants. The poets discuss disgust. The poets discuss the verse in universe. The killer poet is revolted. You say you want a revolution, but the killer poet only wants poets to carry their own water. At the workshop, he changed fire to water in the draft you never saw, out Jesus and Christ himself. Christ himself can only whine about camels and needles. After 3 minutes at the workshop, the poets wanted to kill the killer poet more than they wanted to write poetry. What happened next is that the meaning of life was revealed. Sadly, it can never be known, either because the killer poet deleted that verse from between this line and this line, or because it was written before the Big Bang went boom. Imagine an entire pre-bang literature lost to the cosmic background radiation. That's what the killer poet kills to write. One more killer poet poem, and then I'll conclude with 2 short poems. It's not the destination. The killer poet gives the commencement address at a major university. He reveals the sexual indiscretions of the president with the bursar and a goat. The organizers shift uneasily. Nobody actually gives a shit what you think, he tells the graduates. In 20 years, you'll be divorced and bitter. Blinded and screaming, the graduates run from the hall to write poetry. According to his calculations, the killer poet has just unraped an entire third world nation. What is one slandered goat in comparison? All right. So 2 more. This one is for, I dragged out after the thing in Boston for the victims of the Boston Marathon bombing, and also for all other non-combatants at risk of bombing or who have suffered from bombing, whether it be from military organizations or terrorist organizations. In the checkout line, it is Tuesday, a little before 6 o'clock, and the checkout lines are backed up so far that the carts block the aisles. The shoppers are tired, they've worked all day, and now their domestic chores resume, wheeling the cart, squeezing the legumes, selecting between brands of tuna. Before them lies more traffic, the mewling cat or spouse, bruised fruit, dinner to cook, sullen teenagers who balk when asked to help with the dishes, yet miraculously, they are not grouchy. A faded woman in a bright scarf pushing a cart laden enough to feed an Ethiopian village steps aside for a hunched man clutching 1 pound of ground chuck. The checker, who will be on her feet till 10, jokes with a man whose toddler romps like an untethered goose through fields of Snickers and Baby Ruths. While a young couple goofs on headlines from the Weekly World and Inquirer. Tofu is plot by aliens. Hillary spanks Monica. The shoppers, bovine in their gentle herding and shifting, breathe the fluorescent air with the patience of beasts who know they will be milked and fed and bedded down. They mean well, take turns, use dividers, choose between paper and plastic, don't abuse the express lane. When the bomb detonates, I decide not to permit it to knock a single can off the soup display. This is my poem. These are good people. So just for today, the jagged fragments will slip through the spaces between sighs, bounce off the ozone like tiny meteorites of forgiveness on a cloudy night, unseen, harmless, allowing these weary folks to be home in time for dinner. My last poem, dedicated to Jack McCarthy, who really liked this one. It's called 9/10. 9/10 of the universe is dark matter. 8 of 11 dimensions are smushed string. The quantum continuum is a roiling cauldron. Infinite potential worlds branch each nanosecond. Uncertain electrons jump from Jersey to Saturn. Icebergs are 9/10 submerged. The shadow government runs the government. The Earth's crust is a flywing wrapping hell. 9/10 of a woman's clitoris is subdermal. The moon is better known than the ocean floor. The unconscious drives us mad. God is invisible. Spirits live in the earth. 9/10 of this poem is buried alive, driven insane, swallowed whole, intestinal, orgasmic, oxidative, visionary, ecstatic, unseen, unknown, unloved, unspoken. Thank you. And thank you to Jeremy and the organizers of this great reading. Killer Poet's Guide to Immortality, which is a poetry collection and a novel, is available up here during the break at $10 a shot. Thanks very much.